Hello, Fall 2025 Tumblers coaches. I'm going over the week 6-7 lesson plan right now. Each age is similar but different, so you're gonna have to read close to make sure that you don't accidentally interchange. Over here in the bars area, I'm just gonna go one station at a time to try and keep it as easy to follow as possible. So this station here is glide swing or follow the diamond, or both. We want them to understand both those terms. You can see our diamond on the ground. It's drawn with chalk. You're gonna have to keep retracing that, but the idea is that they start in a hollow stand, so feet here, hands there, so they're already grabbing onto the bar, and then they do a glide swing where their feet go open and shut around the diamond, so their feet follow that shape. Please make sure that they're learning the words hollow, L, pike, straddle, diamond, glide swing. There's just a lot to be able to teach there and be coaching for leg form, and they should be able to see their toes the whole time. Now this is only for 5-6 and 7-8, and it's currently set for 7-8. This will be too tall for 5-6s. So what would be best is if we could move the bar down, but that might not humanly be possible in the constraints that you have unless you have an extra coach who can work ahead. So if you get here and it's too tall, you're going to need to add an extra mat to this, and then their feet will just be further away from the ground. But if it's too short for the 7-8s, they physically won't be able to practice it. So when in doubt, it's got to be a little bit too high. I chose not to do that one for the 9s, in part because there's no way it can be set right for them, and then because they've got a little bit more going on a different bar. So note that this is not for the 9 and older class. Then over here on this bar is really similar to last week, but we're going to practice split jumps here by letting their feet go open, shut, front to back. So the only video I have of this is not the exact station, but you'll kind of understand what I mean, and I'll include it in the lesson plan. But it's again a chance to hang on a bar that's higher, drop to a stick safely. We're not swinging front to back, but they get to hang with a long body and work on that hand strength, and then be working on a split jump in a different, unique way. So try to teach them what tight legs feels like, and it would be better if it's just a teeny tiny little split jump if they're understanding what leg form is, and all the age groups are doing that one. This station is being set up the same and is slightly upgrading for each age. So 5-6, we're spot on pullovers this week, and obviously then you'd want this back a little bit so they can reach the bar easier. And that's where you're just gonna have to be hands-on a lot and be a little bit trying to do many things at once while you're spotting and watching somebody else, but I think we got to give it a try. That doesn't mean you need to stay there the whole time. I would say spotting each kid on 2 or 3 would be a good goal. And then if there's any time left in that rotation, you could say, okay, try it by yourself, or do your bent arm tuck hang from last time. And that's okay if you need to get moving around and help some other kids. The 7-8s are going to get spot on their pullover again, and do the 3 casts and the forward roll dismount. So same as last time. But I would say if you have a 7-8-year-old who's making their pullover on their own, you could offer to spot them on a back hip circle. It's kind of the idea, spot the kids on one skill. So if you don't need to spot them on their pullover, then you could introduce them to a back hip circle, because some kids will have done it before and want to, and it's okay if they don't want to, and you're just focusing on the pullover. Then for 9 to 11, we are making sure they're all getting spot on pullover, cast back hip circle, forward roll dismount. Then over to the blue cheese mat that is not being used for all age groups, so make sure you check. But again, especially for the 5-6s, that's a big skill, getting a backward roll, and we want to keep telling them that a pullover is a backward roll with the bar by your tummy. So it's very similar muscles. So pay attention if your group is doing that one or not doing that one. Trampoline here, everybody's doing split jumps. So again, we get to reference the hang on the bar and this, and open, shut, front to back, leg form, etc. We do want to be asking them to be putting their foot in the front of their belly button that they like for a cartwheel or a handstand, but kids get them switched up all the time, and it's not that big of a deal, but you want to suggest it, because if they do have the capability to follow that guideline, we should be asking them to. Then the kids that are going on the high beam are doing kicks forwards. So again, a chance to reference how that's similar to a split jump. So we're kind of working on a split jump in multiple sets this time. The 5/6s are still not going up onto that beam. The 7/8s and the 9 and ups are. I also did one less bar station for the 9 and ups because sometimes getting spot on a pullover and a back hip circle just takes up a little bit extra time. And so I just did one less station so they can get some extra time. So just be aware of that, because you'll get to, it might feel a little bit longer at each than normal. And I wrote some suggestions in the lesson plan if you finish early and need things to fill the rest of your time with. Moving over to this side of the room, I apologize, I forgot to have a mounting mat here. Make sure you do. We do not want them crawling up using the legs of the beam if we can ever prevent that. It's just not what they're made for. Of course, we do it sometimes, but if we can provide a mounting mat, we should. But especially on that side of the room, because there's hard ground right there and the wall's so close, we really don't want them crawling up that close to that. So make sure there's a mounting mat there. This beam is different for every age group this round. So 5/6s are doing passe walk. They have not done that yet. So we are teaching them that make the letter P with your legs, pointed toe, get them to slow down and focus on balancing on one leg. The 7/8s on that beam are trying their long jump. Some kids might be a little bit too nervous for that, but we want to suggest it, have them try it, and they can always walk if they need to. And then the 9 and ups, we need to put 3 dots here, and they're trying their turn drill there. So that's where they're using their passe walk that they did last week, learning how that they would introduce it into a turn. And the next time we're gonna do turns on toe. So we wanna have this to reference. So there's a video of the words and the strategy that I use for turn drill for kids at this stage. So make sure you take a look at it, and then you're probably just gonna have to stand next to them a lot and help them through it. And then you're gonna have to help other stations too, so you might need to use those words from far away. So you might have to say, so-and-so, start again. Remember, put your favorite foot in the front, put your hands on your hips, go up to your tiptoe, remember that's relevate. And you might have to be verbally coaching that while you're physically coaching something else. But again, just check for your age of group what they're doing there. The laser beam then is also different for each group. So the 5/6s, this is where they're trying their long jump. So they want their feet lined up and facing forwards. Tell them to swing their arms and jump as far as they can. And if you can ask them to, you want them next time to try their other foot in front. And it's a good challenge to say, how many jumps does it take you to get across? You should count and see if you can beat yourself next time. We have some small children on our Excel team who can get across in like 2.5 jumps. So that's a way you can kind of keep them mentally engaged with it. And then this is also a station where they let their feet touch the carpet a lot. It's just right there. So don't get frustrated about it, but say, remember, we want to keep our feet on the beam because we want to practice for when we're up in the air. So keep encouraging them not to just step off to the side because they can just step off to the side. Then this is where the 7/8 group is learning their turn drill, which is what the 9s are doing on the medium beam. So both those age groups, you're going to need to be able to teach that. And we're going to need to put dots there for when it's their turn. And then for the 9 group, they're practicing a cartwheel here. Now, some kids are going to be excited about it and some kids are going to not want to do it at all. So you're going to need to be able to offer them a few options. So option number 1 is they can just do it right here next to the beam if they don't feel ready or confident to try it on the beam. The hardest, obviously, just do it on the beam. And then the next modification would be where they would like start on the beam and put their hands on the beam, but land their feet off the end. Then they don't have to aim their feet precisely, but this is a little too close to the end of the floor. So you'll need to either move the beam back or have them go off of that end. You could even draw like a chalk line on the carpet so that they could aim their feet for something. And then they can see if they feel ready to get it up to the beam. So again, different ages, different skills. So check before your class starts. Then this one is staying the same for all ages, and it's obviously really similar to the last time, you can see from the setup, but we're using the beam instead. So there is a video of like this exact beam, this exact panel mat. I decided to leave it by the wall because you could just tell some of the older, more experienced kids, kick up to the wall and then put your feet back down on the beam would be a great strategy. But you could also then, for the 7 and older classes, if they're really kicking to strong handstands, you can have them move back where their hands don't go on the panel mat if they're really itching for a challenge. But overall, the goal is good, tight kick to handstands, and adding the beam here is just a way to kind of maybe enhance their focus at it, because the beam teaches them a little bit. They know if they fell off the beam or not, and if their feet were in a line or not. So use it how you need to meet the needs of each kid in your class. Then this is the pop-up station. So it's the run hurdle from the first 3 weeks of class, but the trampoline instead of the springboard. And then instead of doing a jump to land on the pit pillow, we're trying to jump all the way up to this folded cheese mat, obviously working towards vault. You might want to stand right here for each kid's first turn, because it's pretty common that they kind of make it up and then step back here. And obviously anytime a child's falling backwards is an opportunity for an injury. So standing there for the first round until they're comfortable or you're comfortable might be the play. You just have to try to maybe stand there as safety, but then verbally coach other things. And especially for your 5-6s, if it's just not to the safety that you prefer, you could always have them run hurdle to the tramp and put their hands here and do their donkey kick from last week. Not the same skill. We would really like to learn both of those things, but when you've got to keep something safe, you've got to keep something safe, and that would be because they've done it before and it's an upgrade technically of that. But being able to jump high enough to get your feet up there is a skill we want to work towards. So it's not like we want to skip a pop-up, but we might need to for safety. And again, that's all age groups are doing that one. This panel mat is here just for the 9s class. Note that this panel mat, better than others, doesn't slide as much on the floor, and they're doing the same station with a bridge and a kickover and a handstand bridge and a TikTok as they did last time. So same instructions there. I just put it against this to hold it still, because why not? And then this station is what the 9 and olders are not using, but the 5 through 8s are using. And this is where they're practicing their cartwheel. Please watch the videos that I have about how to spot a cartwheel. I'm gonna just throw some different videos of different kids working on cartwheels, but the idea is they start their feet on the line, their hands go there, and they land their feet on the line. And if a kid's cartwheel is really excellent and really straight, you could move the panel mat so that they're practicing a little bit more beam-wise. But kids are just kind of all over on cartwheels. And the kids who are decent at them tend to not think that there's much to work on. So please make sure that you're teaching the words start position, cartwheel, lunge, that they know what each of those things are, that on their lunge for their cartwheel, their favorite foot's in the back, that their belly button should be pointing towards the line during their start position, and their belly button should be pointing towards the line in their lunge. Please teach them that their legs should go really tall, like a rainbow over the top, and their feet are apart like a straddle, just so that they're learning as much about the skill as possible.